Hi, Elise.
Hi, Claire. How you going?
Yeah, great. We've got a special topic to talk about at the request of listeners.
We sure do. So it's that time of year again where we're heading into season. Um,
Yeah,
Now, both HSC and university. So, whilst we do talk about HSC students, I think this is really relevant for anyone who's doing any type of exams at the moment. So,
yeah. I completely agree, Elise. Like there'll be kids sitting TAFE exams. Year 10 is hot on the heels of
yeah.
year 12, but then year 11, primary school kids, lots and lots of people doing all kinds of exams. So let's jump in.
Yeah, so I've got a few questions that have sort of come from parents that are concerned about their students heading into this time. So I'm going to read them out, and then you can give me some answers, and we're going to link them to all of our resources in No Money, No Time. So are
That
you ready
sounds
to
great.
go?
Yeah, that sounds great. And, we do have lots of resources. So let's jump in. And there's some things I want people to know about nutrition and brain health as well.
Excellent. Okay. So the first set of questions we're going to look at brain function and focus. So what foods help improve concentration and memory during study and exams?
Wow, there's foods and there's things that you can actually do. So first up, I'm going to talk about the thing that you can do, and one of them is actually chewing,
Mm.
and it's often overlooked. And I came across this super interesting study. It was published in 2019, and they studied nurses doing their final year of exams. So can you imagine how stressed they were because you pass and woohoo, you're a nurse and you can get a job, and don't pass, you're going to have to repeat. So what they did to the nurses was they divided them into three groups. One of them, they said, you just study as you usually do. And one group, they asked them to chew non-sugar chewing gum for a week leading up to the exams, once a day for or however often, but you had to chew for at least 30 minutes a day. And the other group, they extended that out to like nearly 3 weeks, like 19 days or whatever. And what was super interesting was that they also measured like anxiety, stress, depression and things like that as well. And what they found though was that both of the groups of nursing students who had chewed chewing gum for any length of time, they actually felt less stressed and less anxious about the exams. But the ones who'd chewed it for more than the 1 week actually also got better marks.
Yeah, right.
So what it tells you though, that especially if you suffer from, anxiety about actually doing the exams, even if you start now, that chewing well when you're having your meals or using, the non-sugar chewing gums can help manage that anxiety. But the reason why they think it might also lead to improved exam performance over time, because when you chew, you get more blood flowing to your brain. And so that actually just helps your brain work better. And it's super, super interesting because this chewing phenomena has also been noticed with brain aging and risk of other cognitive diseases like dementia. So there's an easy one.
Yeah.
When you're going out to the shops, buy some um, diet chewing gum, non-sugar chewing gum. That's especially important if you have kids who suffer from exam stress. That is going to definitely help. But the other thing as a parent, have chewy foods. So if you think about having like rolled oats breakfast, so
Mm.
whether it's muesli or whether it's a porridge, you got to chew up those rolled oats compared to if you have a breakfast cereal that just like doesn't, or only need to gum it,
Yeah.
basically. You don't need to chew it all. And then the same for snacks. So something like popcorn, which is actually a whole grain, you've got to chew that compared to if you just give your kids a drink of soft drink.
Yeah. Yeah, or a sugary biscuit or something like
Yeah,
that.
or a sugary
So,
biscuit. Yeah, where you can, yeah,
yeah.
or, like a macaroon where it just melts in your mouth.
Yeah. That's a really good tip because that's something that you can do on the day as well, because you're very limited with what you can take into an exam.
Yeah,
Like you can take a bottle of water, I think, but that you
yeah,
don't generally get to take snacks or anything. So you can have
yeah.
that piece of chewy in your mouth already, and it's not going to be distracting
Okay,
for other
yeah.
people.
And that leads to the next one.
Mm.
Um, Trying to encourage your kids to be well hydrated.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
important because a lot of people worry about, but what if I've got to go to the loo?
Mm.
So there was this study was done in children, and they actually showed that being as little as less than 3% dehydrated, so that's the equivalent of, let's say you've been running around, you've gone for a jog, and you've had nothing to drink because you think, I don't want to have to do a wee during that exam.
Mhm.
Well, if you're dehydrated, then your blood volume is actually lower.
Mhm.
And so you're not, again, getting the same sort of blood pulsing through your brain as if you're well hydrated. And then you can't think straight.
Mm.
I think the most extreme way of believing that or seeing that is, have you ever seen one of those marathon races and they show the real tragic sign of the athlete who falls over and just can't get up and cross the finish line because they're so
Mm.
disorientated? It's a minor version
Yeah.
of that. So, how do you know if you're getting enough water? Well, your urine is the color of straw. And for primary school age children, you might actually have to teach them about that. I
Mm.
mean, you know, adolescents and adults, they probably already know that. If your urine's a really dark color, you haven't had enough water. So encourage them to take a look. You want to go into an exam knowing that your urine's about the color of straw, and be drinking water whilst you're studying
Mm.
so that all those facts are getting there in your brain.
Yeah. Okay. So what about caffeine then, Claire?
Yeah, now caffeine is a double-edged sword.
Mm.
So caffeine can stimulate you to do more wheeze, basically.
Mhm.
It can interfere with your sleep, but caffeine actually does improve your brain short-term memory. So here's another study that they did. They gave people 100 milligrams of caffeine or not. Now, that's like a weak barista coffee. A
Mhm.
cup of tea is 60 to 80 milligrams of caffeine. A cup of powdery coffee at home is like 80 to 100 milligrams. It's depending on the type of beverage, it might be roughly a cola beverage. So then they did a brain test on them. What they did was they flashed up a row of numbers, took it away, and then they flashed up a number and they said, press yes or no. Was this the second last number when we flashed up a row of numbers for you to quickly see and quickly remember? And what they did to check whether their brain was lighting on up, they put their heads in these MRI machines,
Mhm.
functional MRI machines. And what they showed was that the people who had the caffeine, their memory ability was lighting up if they'd had the caffeine, and they got a better score on remembering facts. So if you're going into an exam, this suggests that caffeine could be helpful if you're going into an exam where there's a lot of short-term memory. So it mightn't help with English unless you've got to remember big passages of quotes, but it might help with, you've got to remember mathematical or science formulas or things like that. And it wasn't a lot of caffeine.
Yeah, so that's where I wanna have a chat, Claire. So, I wouldn't think that the high school students are really going to be having a coffee on the way to school. I mean, they might be, but
They're
I
year
live
12, they might be, but
they might
if they're younger, they wouldn't be. And
no,
so
but
that,
what I am noticing, Claire,
yeah,
is that because I live near 2 high schools, and the
yeah.
students walk past our house of a morning, and they're all carrying high energy canned drinks.
Wow, that's not good because
No.
a lot of those, they contain not only caffeine, but another
Mm.
substance called guarana, which is also a stimulatory effect. And then that's more likely to,
Mm.
especially if they're having multiple of those, disrupt their sleep.
Mm.
Okay, now parents, if you've got primary school children and younger adolescents, your liver is not as mature as an adult. So what that means is when I say 100 milligrams of caffeine in an adult, that means that if you gave that to a child, that has an even bigger effect because their body is not able to clear it, detoxify it
Mm.
through the liver and lower its effect. So we talk about it having a potentiated effect, which in plain language just means it's like you've given them a double dose.
Mm.
So if you've got kids geeing themselves up on these energy drinks, they're probably not, they're more likely to not be able to come down from that stimulation in order to study for the exam. That's the next day as well, not sleep really well.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's what I mean. Caffeine can be a double-edged sword. Now, let's just jump in then and talk about tea. Tea
Okay.
contains caffeine, but tea contains this really super interesting amino acid called L-theanine, and it damp downs that stimulatory effect of caffeine. But tea, the L-theanine amino acid, it also increases these things called alpha brainwaves. And alpha brainwaves keep you calm but alert. Now, normally in exams, these high pressure exams, they give you some reading time just to
Mm.
check if there's any clarifications. You can put your hand up and say, this instruction's unclear. I'm missing page 3 of the exam. I've got page 2, then page 4. So you need to be calm but alert. So for some people then, again, especially if you need to feel more calm going into the exam, a cup of tea is actually a helpful short-term thing you can go into the exams because it increases the calming alpha brain waves.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next bank of questions then, and that's meal planning and timing.
Yes.
So, what should my child eat before an exam to stay alert and focused? So, I think we've probably sort of like touched on that a little bit with the chewing and the oats. But what would be a couple of good options before an exam?
Well, let's talk about the exams for, the that might be TAFE, uni, year 12, HSC, final exams. Some of these exams go for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do not want to run out of fuel. So you don't want to get to the point where we've all had that feeling where you go, if I don't eat something, I think I'm either
Mm.
going to pass out or have to lie down, or you've got really loud tummy rumbles that are stopping you from concentrating. So having a snack that's got a complex carbohydrate plus some protein in it, and that can be as something as basic as a cheese sandwich or, you go, oh no, I'm vegetarian. Okay, well, baked beans on toast. It could be something like, we call them overnight oats, the whole range of recipes, um, you know, where you've got your oats soaking in yogurt, maybe got a grated apple in there and some
Mhm.
nuts as
Mhm.
well. So then you've got the combination of proteins that will keep you feeling satisfied, complex carbohydrates, which give you a slower release in your blood sugar without having that big spike. Why you don't want to eat a whole bunch of lollies before you go into the exam is because if you have a big spike as they get digested rapidly and your blood sugar rises, well, your pancreas goes, oh, high blood sugar alert, sends out all the insulin to scoop up the glucose and take it off to your muscles. And of course, some goes up to your brain as well. But then you like run out because it's jumped on it quickly.
Mm.
Whereas if you have the more complex, slowly digesting carbohydrates, you get the bonus of chewing them, you get the slower release, and you haven't run out of steam by the time you get to that exams. But you know what I think is helpful, Elise, for parents? Have a chat to the young people in your house, or if this is you yourself studying, think about, well, what's a really good exam breakfast for you, and have that in the days before you're studying. Treat yourself like the athletes treat themselves. They don't usually change their nutrition support for their sports performance on the day of the big
Mm.
race. They're doing that during training.
Mhm.
So for you, it means you're doing that during your study. And if it is, like you got kids doing year 6 exams or whatever, get into that same habit of, while they're studying or doing their homework, these are the sort of snacks that we give them, or the evening meal that we give them
Yeah.
as part of their preparation for concentrating during a long exam.
Yeah. So, I'd imagine that it's very important to maintain regular meals as well, because there's some concern about students skipping meals because they're busy studying or they're distracted.
Yeah. Well, I thought I'd just tell you about the nutrients that your brain needs. So, and your brain is like the powerhouse for your car, and there's a whole bunch of nutrients that you need. So, the way your brain controls a lot of process in your bodies is that it sends out neurotransmitters, and to make those neurotransmitters, you need long chain fats. So that's omega-3 fats.
Mhm.
So they're in fatty fish, but they're also in things like walnuts, and they're also in canola oil. So when you go to the supermarket, go, oh, I've heard all about olive oil. Well, canola oil is actually a bit cheaper, but it's also more rich in these long chain fatty acids. So, use that in your stir fry. So long as there's no nut allergies at
Mm.
your household, include nuts regularly, particularly walnuts are high in these omega-3s. And we'll include a link to that in the link to this article that we'll put on No Money, No Time. So the other things we've already talked about, your brain needing carbohydrate. Complex carbohydrate gives it a steady supply. It gets to the brain as blood glucose. Protein, all amino acids, but I've already talked about L-theanine,
Mhm.
and then tryptophan in particular. Now, tryptophan is a super interesting amino acid because it's used to make the brain chemical called serotonin. And serotonin is sometimes called like the happy
It's a happy
chemical.
hormone, isn't it? Mm.
Yeah, the happy um, brain chemical, and it's responsible, yeah, for making you feel, cheering you up.
Mm.
And you really absolutely need that when you're studying for exams.
Oh, yeah.
So tryptophan, but the other super interesting, and I bet I'm going to jump in and answer another question on
Yeah,
your list.
probably, yeah.
Yeah, so we all know about tryptophan being used to make serotonin, but it's actually also needed to make melatonin, which is
You are
the
jumping
sleep
ahead here, Claire. Yeah.
the sleep chemical. So and then the other group of nutrients that your body needs are the B vitamins. And why does it need B vitamins? Well, a lot of the B vitamins are used in metabolism. So when you have metabolism of that blood glucose, it's kind of like being at a bonfire. You got wood on the fire, but you want it to catch on fire and warm you up. Well, that's what the B vitamins contribute to a great bonfire. So really help your the energy get released in your brain cells and in your whole body actually. And then there are other minerals that are needed for good brain function: iron, zinc, iodine. But one that particularly applies to girls is iron. So if you've got kids who are vegetarian, well, then their iron intake can be lower. But if you've got girls who've got heavy, periods, then they can be losing a lot of iron. So iron is a long-term project to work on, and that's something that if you've got a teenage daughter and you go, she's always asleep, well, that's something to talk to your GP about. And why does that matter? Well, iron makes hemoglobin. Hemoglobin makes your blood bright red, and that carries oxygen around your body. And we all know what happens if you don't have oxygen. Well, you're just going to pass out and turn blue, aren't you?
Mhm.
So the iron is a long-term project to look out for. But a lot of what we've talked about is those short-term
Mm.
meals that'll get them through their study,
Yep.
get them through the exam, try and help keep them calm, alert, and not so overstimulated that they can't sleep.
Yeah. How much sleep do you recommend for students
Well,
at this period?
Well, like it's generally considered 8 hours, but let's not kid ourselves during exam period, especially if you've got a whole heavy exam week, which can happen for university and
Mm.
HSC exams, you're probably not going to get that. So the nutrition is really important, but don't make the mistake of staying up all night and then you actually are so sleepy you cannot concentrate and you're so stressed and anxious that you're not going to do particularly well. So if you've found you've cut your exam time, preparation time a bit short, still do not try zero sleep
Yep.
because that is not necessarily going to work for you on the day of the performance. You can certainly catch up on sleep afterwards, but you probably know your own body. They will all know their own bodies in terms of what that trade-off is. And so I think it's trying to be supportive as a parent, knowing that they're going to the limits of their ability to study and perform well, but do not cross that line in terms of so little sleep that
Yeah.
couldn't even read it. You're so stressed. Chewing gum's not even helping. Cup of tea's not even helping.
No. Okay, well, I'm just looking through my list of questions here, Claire, and
Yes.
because you've jumped ahead on so many, I think you've actually covered off on the things that we were going to talk about. So, we've talked
Okay.
about sugar and how it spikes, and we've talked about chewing longer, staying focused. So, I think we're
I
covered
think there's a
off.
bit more to say about sleep though, because I know I mentioned about melatonin,
Oh,
but I
mhm.
think maybe it's really helpful then, especially for people who go, okay, I am going to the limits of the amount of sleep I need to get through exam week. But now, is there anything that I can eat or do before I go to sleep? So I think one of the things is still don't expect yourself to pull out your head out of the books and reviewing
Yeah.
your exam notes and go, right now, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Yeah.
Still give yourself some switch off time. So, and whether that's just doing a bit of tidy up, put things away, allow yourself to come down from that intense study
Yeah.
and definitely have a snack. So, the foods that are rich in tryptophan is actually things that have protein in it. So that could be milk, that could be cheese. One of the super rich things is actually turkey, believe it or not, but I
Oh,
think that's going to
a
be more
turkey
the
sandwich before bed?
yeah, that could be more the Americans studying, but that's why there's that whole thing about a warm glass of milk before you go to bed because you've got tryptophan, but you've also got the carbohydrate. So when your brain make converts tryptophan into serotonin and melatonin, you actually need some carbohydrate for the digestive processes that support that conversion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the old wives' tale, a glass of warm milk, that's fine. Or it might be, yeah, something on toast, cheese on toast, peanut butter on toast, any of those things. And those same like sleepy time um, are also the same calming down type snacks. So again, like peanut butter on toast before you get on the bus to the exam,
Yeah.
or maybe you're getting dropped off or whatever. I think the other thing that's really helpful is trying to talk to your HSC student, what is their preparation once they get to school? Now, and this probably isn't the first time they've experienced that kind of very pre exam jitters and stress because they've been doing exams all the way through
Yeah.
school and they've been through this in year 11 as well. But try and avoid the stress heads.
Yeah.
The people who try and distract you, I know for me, I remember learning that when I was in year 12 and gone, that's a bazillion years ago, but learning who are the trusted friends where you can get together and just revise the formulas or, revise the key quotes or things like that and stay away from those stress people. The night before, this is something if you're a parent with a year 12, your kids can take a lunchbox with an extra water bottle, with too many snacks in
Yeah.
case, one kid's left their lunchbox on the bus or whatever, and your child's so lovely they're going to share all their food. Like having extra of those, even if that's as a security blanket. And, I think all those little supportive things, keeping mealtime calm, trying to avoid distracting other loud noises and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because let's face it, as parents, I still remember you're on eggshells when you've got young people doing exams. And I think the same applies for flatmates. Now,
Mhm.
hopefully, if you're a uni student and you've got flatmates, hopefully you're not all doing the same big exams on the same day. And I think you can share that meal prep, or if you've got kids who live in a flat but they're doing exams, that's
Yeah.
something helpful you can do. Here's a lasagna and it's got all lentils and stuff like
Yeah.
that in, so they've got their slow carbs
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah. And I think, learn about your friends and how what works for them as well. So you can avoid those anxious people or you can be that calming ear for them if they need it. But I know even you, Claire, when you do a massive presentation, you like that time
Oh, I
beforehand
d
to just
I
calm
know.
down and debrief with
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, that's right. And I've told you I can't concentrate until after I've done this talk. I get a
Yeah.
bit snappy, don't I?
No,
So,
not
and I always
snappy. I
have,
know that's what you need, so we don't distract you in that lead
yeah.
up time.
Yeah, well, I know for me, the cup of tea,
Mm.
keep me calm but alert. And the other interesting thing, I think, hopefully parents listening in for your kids and uni students, you learn what is your calming
Yeah.
routine. Because I honestly think, like for me personally, knowing that having that cup of tea before I go and give a talk
Mhm.
or, when I've really got to concentrate on something, that sort of almost sends psychologically, you need to do that, or you're not going to perform as well.
Yeah.
Just one other quick thought, like because our research evidence shows that lowering of stress, lowering of anxiety with chewing, that's probably something you definitely can be doing while you're studying, but mums and dads put that in their lunchbox,
Yeah.
a packet of sugar-free
Yeah.
chewing gum so that,
Yeah.
if that becomes a key thing for them on the bus on the way in, it is
Yeah.
helping keep them. And, good luck everyone. It's super, super stressful time. We know that. And we'll link to an article on No Money, No Time. We'll put the link in the show
Yeah.
notes. And yeah, good luck everyone.
I want to finish on a note though, Claire, that exams are not the be all and end all. And
Absolutely.
no matter what happens, you can still be successful in life and you can still have the career of your dreams.
Oh, absolutely. And, that's one thing that super proud about the University of Newcastle. We have Open Foundation. And, we have one of our postdoctoral research fellows
You
here
do. Yeah.
who didn't do year 12
Yeah.
and came in through Open Foundation, did that is like a year 12
Hmm.
as a mature age student, then did so well that she got into nutrition and dietetics, and then went, wow, there's a world of research. And they've said I could do a PhD. And now she works here as a doctor, postdoctoral researcher. It's not the be all and end all. And we all understand that everyone matures at different rates, don't they? And sometimes it's just not the right time for people. But
No.
the other thing too is the strategies that we've talked about in helping for exam performance and exam related stress. They're actually things that work just for life related
Exactly.
stress as well. And
Yeah.
there's plenty of that.
Yeah. Find what works for you. Find a calming app that you can listen to, do breathing techniques, have
Yeah,
that cup of tea. But yeah, I really, really need to stress that exam results are not the be all
absolutely.
and end all. I did my HSC, I had an appalling result, and I now have an MBA and I have the job of my dreams. So it doesn't,
And we get to work with each other. So, how lucky, how
we are,
lucky are we? How lucky are we? And
we
so
are.
we're super proud that we're bringing this advice on
Yep,
nutrition,
yep,
exams, supporting people doing exams so that you all get through to the other side
that's
and then
right.
can have a nice break
So
hopefully
just
after that.
do your best, eat well, sleep well, and take care of each other. And I think that's the key message, isn't it?
That's the key message. Great to chat
Yeah.
to you
Good
again,
luck,
Elise.
everybody. Ta.
Good luck,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.